RKO, one of those major studios that didn't make it out of the past. There's a young Kirk Douglas in this one. He's probably the biggest name today, but back then was obviously the lesser of the three major stars. His name comes in behind the other two. I've seen this movie once before. I don't remember a lot of it. The only thing I do remember is at the time I saw it was a time where I saw a lot of film noirs. And I didn't like this on the higher tier. One, because I heard it was supposed to be the best, if not at a minimum one of the best, if not the best. And I felt it was a little cold. I think what made it great is the formula it follows is so tight because film noirs now, I mean, they got that name from the French, I think, um, after the US stopped making these type of movies. And they weren't necessarily following a formula when they were making these movies. The formula was something that people saw as a pattern that all these films had. And this film follows that pattern, I think, as tightly as any other film noir during that era. And solid production, good cast. So I think time makes this a little formulaic and a little cliched, but I don't know if how can you call it cliched if the cliches were developed after the genre was named and after all the films were made from the initial era. So yeah, that's why I don't like it. It felt a little cliched at the time I saw it, but I'm gonna give it a shot now.
Two things I can smell inside 100 feet: burning hamburger and a romance.
Got a customer.
What do you have?
A lot of snappy dialogue.
Something else?
Cream.
Feels like a Marvel movie or a Josh Whedon movie.
Hello, Abe.
Coffee?
Oh, thanks.
First she's got you, now she's got you and Bailey. And the only thing I seem to get is older.
Thanks a lot, money. I'll see you later.
Quip, 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 quip. All the quipping made that scene feel very dense.
They're just not feeding
I'm not sure if it was because I was just trying to catch up with the dialogue.
Say tomorrow morning? Where? Lake Tahoe. Turn right at Emerald Bay. Big house on a hill. You won't miss it. You can't.
Man, there's so much cynicism in this movie. The thing about these movies is they're so cynical and
My name isn't Bailey. It's Mark.
bleak that
Mark.
any character that isn't sarcastic or
I meant to, but I kept putting
doom and gloom,
because I didn't
it's
like
very
it.
easy to make them
Please tell me, Jeff.
the protagonist
Some of it's gonna hurt you.
or the innocent person in the film, which
Well, I found
obviously
like a
she
prison
is because she stands out like a sore thumb.
He was taking it in stride, but he had a friend who was a ball of fire. Newspaper guys.
Here we
wise
go.
guys,
We have
when they
the
speak, they're kidding. So he showed us
flashback,
finding a cap pistol. So I
smoking,
shot the ace of spades out of his sleeve during a
the
gin
femme
drink.
fatale,
A guy can't even get shot in his own
the
apartment by a
private
dame
detective,
without the whole town starting to
all of
look
that
like a-
within a
like
minute.
a
We
place.
establish all that stuff, which are staples of the film noir genre. Both of them have dimples in their chin. I guess that was a bigger thing back then, where parents would actually just give it to their kids by just constantly pushing a finger in their chin,
Okay.
and then they develop that dimple.
Give me the stuff on the family, pictures, anything interesting. You'll get it. I'll see you. You bring it over, Joe. Come on, let's go.
I'm not sure if that's how all babies got dimples, or if you can get it naturally.
Mind telling me your name?
I'm sure you can get it naturally too.
Kathy Moffat.
Maybe that's an old wives' tale. Pushing your fingers in the cheeks or the chin of your baby. You wouldn't think of having rap music in a neo-noir, but honestly, jazz was black music and it was popular music. And if you made a neo-noir now, it would have rap or hip-hop music in it. But I don't know if film noir lovers and neo-noir lovers would necessarily go for that. Also, when you think of the snappy talking as well, it'd be a lot of street slang.
How come you're asking? I want to find it.
You want to find it for that man?
No, for myself.
I've never seen Power
Maybe I ought to tell him.
or any of those
No harm had come to it if you didn't.
those
She
black
gone
TV
now.
shows that are
Well,
popular.
she's disappeared.
But I guess film noir would be more in line with stuff like
Well,
that
I can't say much.
than
Wasn't no
something
fault
like
black
this,
girl. That girl sure hated
if
self.
they were truly
She was
contemporary.
looking for something.
I don't talk, I think. It's too late in life for me to start thinking. I could go down to the cliff and look at the sea like a good tourist. But it's no good if there isn't somebody you can turn to and say, nice view, huh? It's the same with the churches, the relics, the moonlight, or a Cuba Libre. Nothing in the world is any good unless you can share it.
Maybe you want to go home.
Some really good dialogue there. Definitely, if they made something like this today, she'd have more curves, more like a Nicki Minaj or Ice Spice type. But very attractive woman. I believe Jane Greer dated Howard Hughes at the time she made this.
I knew where I was and what I was doing. I just thought what a sucker I was. I even knew she wouldn't come the first night. But I sat there, grinding it out.
Man, the cynicism in this movie, man. Jesus. Jane Greer went on to have a pretty long career, but this was definitely her most memorable role. And the only like truly great movie I think she was in. This was early into her acting career, I believe, or at least her Hollywood acting career. So this was released in 47. I'm seeing here she was born in 24. That would have made her 23 at the time. Maybe this isn't that fascinating, but I've been a lover of film noir for so long, and this is the only time it's really hit me that how young some of these actors were when they made them, and how contemporary the movies were at the time. Because now you just think of them as old movie with older actors and vintage, classic, old Hollywood. Those are terms that come up, but these were young people with contemporary dialogue and themes and slangs. And again, if they were made today, there would be a lot of young actors with a lot of like young people music and young people dialogue that a lot of older fans, that people that love this genre, they would not like a contemporary version of these movies. They wouldn't know how to follow it or understand what people are saying. Also, the times we're living in are so different. This is talking about like World War II and a lot of cynicism in the States. Now it's all cancel culture and PC and very different time. I don't know if the cynicism would necessarily fly. The quippiness people still love, but you have to have the quippiness without any edge to it, any bite. I remember when for the podcast I had done an analysis of slasher films, which is my other favorite subgenre. This being a subgenre of crime films or thrillers. Um, and I just remember like slashers. You have certain slasher films that covered all the, the basics of slashers. This definitely covers a lot of the basics of noirs. But then you have like a slasher film like Halloween, which really emphasized the stalking aspect of slasher films. And it seemed like that was the main thing that it was focused on, despite having the other elements. This is really focused on the cynicism. This is one of the most cynical films as far as with the dialogue and the attitude of the characters that I can remember watching in a while. That's the equivalent of a love scene back then.
I don't like playing games when I'm the fall guy. You might remember that, Whit.
Uh-oh. Is that her? No.
You started this and you'll end it. Besides, Joe couldn't find a prayer in the Bible. You'll find it. Take it easy. Take it
Like that line. A lot of good lines in this movie.
So just pay me off and I'm quiet. But use cash. Don't try to pay me off with pitch handed to you for this cheap piece of baggage. I was hoping you'd do this.
Jeez. That was a great scene. Good dialogue, good action, double crossing. This is where she really becomes a femme fatale. You realize there's a huge amount of money involved that she probably took.
You wouldn't have killed him. You would have beaten him up and thrown him out.
And she kills his partner. Now you got to question, what does she care about? Him or the money? And there she goes. There's the money.
I didn't mean to hurt your feelings, Lee.
My feelings? About 10 years ago, I hid them somewhere and haven't been able to find them.
Where did you look?
In my pocketbook.
Another great line.
You remember Kathy, don't you?
Yeah, I remember Kathy. Sit down.
Wow.
Kathy's back in the fold now.
Out of the past.
You're back in the fold too, Jack.
Does he know?
I couldn't help it, Jeff.
Let's just leave it where it all is. You know?
In the past.
Glad you could come, both of you. Mr. Hughes, you make a great martini. Oh, thank you. Good night. Good night.
Good night, Leonard.
Good night.
All this crossing and double crossing. What the hell is going on?
For a man who appears to be clever, you can certainly act like an idiot.
That's one way to be clever. Look like an idiot.
It makes sense that they double cross him because he double crossed Kirk Douglas too. It's just a really trying to find everyone's motivation is kind of tricky. How smart is everyone actually being? How much are they being manipulated? Everyone's so cynical. It makes you think that each of them are the smartest person in the room.
Make him do
I
anything.
love the lighting in this scene right here.
You ought to have killed me for what I did a moment ago. You ought to have killed me for what I did a moment ago. You ought.
We can't see his face. Her face is half light, half dark. This is a really, really good film noir, but it is something you need to see multiple times.
That's right, Club in Reno. Just the Blue Sky Club in
Don't
Reno.
forget those dames listen in. Don't forget those dames listen in.
I'm gonna need like, as I'm watching this, I almost feel like I almost want to rewatch it like as soon as it's finished. With all the crossing and double crossing and trying to figure out character motivations, it's a little tricky to follow. But I think I got it, but still. I think it's more enjoyable to not be thinking so much about what's happening next, because then it's hard to like fully enjoy it. Knowing what happens at the end, I think, is going to make a rewatch more enjoyable. I don't fully remember what happened to all the characters. I just remember the famous ending, but I don't remember how it plays out for all these characters. My assumption is they all die at the end. I think a character like Anne is really needed in this film, because otherwise it's just, who the hell do you really care about? Maybe the lead character because you're following them, but I don't know. Just personally being in New York and dealing with cynical New Yorkers and people who always think they're the smartest person in the room, they can also be very obnoxious to a certain extent, and you don't necessarily want to root for them.
You consider it too dumb for him to try to hold up here? He'll come here, and when he does, I'll
Makes you almost attach more to someone that's wholesome, even though you may find wholesomeness to be obnoxious as well. Oh wow, that is some strong fishing line. Clever scene though. I like the on-location shooting here. You don't really get a lot of that this time in Hollywood. That's a really good use of the on-location set. This is a really, really good noir, and it's jumping way on my list from what I thought of it previous to this watching. I think the only flaw I'm getting in this movie is that Robert Mitchum is almost too cool in the role. It makes the stakes not feel as high because he's not bothered by anything.
They say you killed a man.
Believe it.
Not until you tell me.
You believe everything I say, don't you?
Everything you say to me, I believe.
Aside from that,
I don't know why.
maybe it's not as creative with the shots in terms of when you compare it to a movie like The Third Man,
Slap your face.
but it's hard to try and find faults in this movie. These are one of those movies with very little wasted characters. And of course, another double cross.
Get out of here.
This time she finished the job.
I think so.
You're running the show now.
Kind of reminds me of Gone Girl. We have the two characters get together at the end, but yeah, they kind of like hate each other. Or are they going to kill each other?
Dirty double-crossing rat. You can tell me. You know him better than I did. Was he going away with her? I have to know. Was he going away with her?
This is the ending that really solidifies the film. As what I remembered most from my first viewing of it is the ending. Kind of like The Third Man ending, where the woman keeps walking and Joseph Cotton is trying to come together with her after the person that she loved died. Kind of comes right back to the beginning. You kind of get the sense, obviously, since this character can't talk, he did what Jeff would have wanted him to do so she could move on with her life. That is a good one.